eminent clergy, the chairperson, esteemed journalist and diplomat, Ghana's Minister for Information, representative of the African Union, the General Secretary, Africa Chapter of the International Trades Union Confederation, President, Executive, and members of the Federation of African Journalists, the President, Executives, and members of the Ghana Journalists Association, Chairperson of Ghana's National Media Commission, the Dean and members of the Diplomatic Corps, fellow Africans, ladies and gentlemen. I'm grateful to the African Federation of Journalists and the Ghana Journalists Association for the invitation to open this year's African Journalist Leaders Conference, which is being held in our vibrant. That there was a fight to have private radio stations, even when the Constitution of Ghana's Fourth Republic had given that right. The great global changes of the 1990s led to a renewal of democratic aspirations in Africa, which lay at the heart of the free. The Ghanaian people, just as they had demonstrated in the drive towards independence, showed again their determination to live in conditions of freedom and democracy. In 1992, by an overwhelming margin in a referendum, they approved the adoption of the Constitution of the Fourth Republic, which set up the institutions of a liberal democratic state, operating on the basis of the separation of powers, with express guarantees of fundamental human rights, including, naturally, freedom of thought and expression. Indeed, the diversity and free flow of news and information are fundamental to the healthy workings of any democracy. I thank you, the journalists of this country and of this continent, for keeping our governments accountable. It is the media, above all, that has encouraged our people to become more and more discerning, vocal, and questioning as a civic public. We have recently had a good example of how the media can be a force for good, and that was manifested in how we've been dealing with COVID-19. Without a lively press that worked hand in hand to deliver not only the news about the outbreak of COVID-19, but also to communicate the strategies and public health messages that have been put in place around the continent, we would be telling a very different story today. Journalists did and continue to do a yeoman's job in the public education of the citizenry about COVID-19 and vaccination efforts across the continent. Journalists in this instance were and are partners to government across the continent, and through this joint effort have helped save the lives of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of African citizens. And I pay homage to the efforts of our journalists. There are three other matters of continental and national significance for which I appeal for the committed partnership of government and the media. The fight against terrorism and violent extremism, which are threatening the stability of all regions of our continent. The fight against climate change, including the preservation of the integrity of our environments and the sanctities of our water bodies. And thirdly, the fight against the illicit flow of funds from our continent, which the Thabo Mbeki Commission estimated conservatively, currently, at 80 billion United States dollars a year. These are all menaces to the health, progress, and stability of our nations and continent. We should stand shoulder to shoulder in ridding our continent and nations of them. I believe a vibrant and unfettered media is the most effective way to hold government and society to the highest standards of honesty, self-discipline, and delivery. Indeed, on 2nd August 2001, in the government of that outstanding Ghanaian statesman, His Excellency John Agyekum Kufuor, the second president of Ghana's Fourth Republic, A historic victory was won in the struggle of the Ghanaian people for liberty, and especially for freedom of expression by the repeal of the criminal libel law. This brought to an end more than a century-old regime of colonial laws repressive of free expression. I'm proud of the modest role I played in the process of repeal of the criminal libel law. As the Attorney General who piloted the repeal through Parliament, I was also responsible for the discontinuation of the then pending prosecutions under the criminal libel law of notable Ghanaian journalists Tommy Thompson, Kofi Kumson, and Ibn Kwaku for publications against personalities of the then government. The repeal of the criminal libel law has had a very positive impact on the development of the Ghanaian media, freeing it from unnecessary self-censorship and promoting a robust and critical media culture. In the process, it has contributed to the growth of a vibrant media that has won Ghana the reputation of having one of the most media-friendly and liberal climates on the continent. It has also contributed significantly to the deepening of democracy in our country, enhancing public accountability as a strategic goal of public policy. Even as one of the public figures most persistently vilified in sections of the Ghanaian media, who ironically was a principal actor in the repeal of the law, I continue to insist that its repeal was necessary in the public interest in our emerging democracy. I maintain that I prefer a boisterous, even reckless media to a supine one. As President of the Republic, I have seen to the passage of the Right to Information Act, which is meant to give effect to Article 21. Several preceding administrations had shied away from taking such a step. The combination of all these have meant that the Ghanaian citizen, through the presence of a dynamic media, is able to give boldly and freely his or her feedback on policies and programs of government. Civil society groups are able to interrogate fearlessly government actions and positions, compare them to best global practices, and offer views and critiques aimed at complementing the efforts of government. And the political opposition is able to raise dissent openly, canvass for alternative viewpoints, and by so doing, offer our citizens alternatives to consider on all key issues of our national discourse. Nonetheless, we recognize the need for training, critical engagement by society with our media, self-regulation, and insistence on high media ethics and journalistic standards by media houses, practitioners, and their organizations, as part of the process of building a culture of high standards of professionalism in the Ghanaian media. This has been largely accepted as the means of enhancing the quality of media freedom in Ghana. As we gather in Accra for this Leaders' Conference, it is still disheartening to note that though proven to be a catalyst in spurring the advancement of societies in the 21st century, we still have several countries that frown on or even criminalize free speech. On a day like this, it is also important to consider some of the emerging challenges to media freedom. One of them is what constitutes an attack on media freedom. It cannot be right, no matter where in the world the journalists are physically attacked or prevented from doing their work. Once that happens, it is an attack on media freedom, and it must be roundly condemned by all. As George Orwell rightly puts it, and I quote, "Freedom of the press, if it means anything at all, means the freedom to criticize and oppose," unquote. However, there seems to be an emerging narrative which is being proffered by some in Ghana that critiquing the work of a journalist constitutes an attack on media freedom. That certainly cannot be described as an attack on media freedom. Having the freedom to criticize and oppose should also mean that the media is ready to accept and work with criticisms of its work by the citizenry or officialdom. That, for me, is one of the surest ways of improving the public discourse of our respective countries, and we should all strive towards realizing this. This conference should also seek to address the phenomena of misinformation campaigns and fake news, which sometimes, unfortunately, are propagated by some in the media. The tendency to report on only one side of a story and pass judgment on it, without wanting to learn or give a fair amount of reportage to the other side, stifles the truth. The media should only be concerned about reporting the facts and should not lend themselves to being bought or being used to destroy the reputation of others. The media has immeasurable power to build up the confidence and values of our societies and their institutions, and therefore ought to be assisted in discharging their duties at all times. I appeal to media practitioners on the continent to take a second look at the immense power they wield and the responsibility they owe their societies and their peoples, and ensure that they do not sacrifice integrity and the future of our societies on the altar of an instant scoop or ill-considered publication. The Rwanda genocide in 1994 presents probably the best example of the calamity that can befall a country when the media is oblivious or chooses to ignore this particular sacred role. In Rwanda, a radio station became a catalyst for fueling the genocidal atrocities in which 800,000 people were tragically slaughtered. Although the country has picked itself up under the strong leadership of President Paul Kagame, there is no doubt that many Rwandans continue to suffer from the trauma. African journalists and media practitioners and organizations must not and cannot take the national cohesion of our countries and their stability for granted. As was proven in Rwanda, all it takes is for a radio station to broadcast a few provocative and ethnocentric catchphrases to alter completely the course of a nation's history. Ladies and gentlemen, the government I lead remains committed to empowering the citizen, media, and civil society so we can all play our roles in realizing our vision of building a progressive and prosperous Ghana, a Ghana beyond aid. As President of Ghana, I assure you that the Ghanaian people will continue to exercise their right to free expression to the very end because of their determination to build a free, open society with accountable governance, no matter the cost. Once again, I thank the African Federation of Journalists for honoring Ghana with this event, and I wish you a successful conference. May God bless Mother Africa and us all, and may God bless our homeland Ghana and make her great and strong. I thank you for your attention.
A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, thank you very much.